As a chef and a nutritionist, I often get asked, why do you think our nation is so sick? My answer, what do we do every day? We eat food. I live with illness and have used food to help me get well and feel better. My goal here is to teach you to do the same. Eating healthfully can be simple, delicious, and nutritious. So chew on this. Hi, welcome to a new episode of Chew on This. I'm Stefanie Sacks, and today's topic is glorious gluten-free. Is it a weight loss fad? What do you think? My guest today is my friend Susan Manisoff, who has a lot to say about gluten, has a lot of questions, and has a lot of good humor. So Susan, welcome. Thank you. Hi, darling.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here,
So
Dollface.
exciting.
I know you have a lot of questions about gluten, because this
Too
is
many.
something we always end up talking about when we're at the pool, when we're at the beach, when we see each other for dinner, play dates, always.
Yes, always.
So,
As a mom, you always want to, you're interested in food, about your kids, and eating healthy and being healthy.
but what about you? I mean, your husband is obsessed with gluten-free.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah. He started getting interested in gluten-free about a year ago. We were living in London, and a friend of mine was a nutritional therapist there, and we just
Is it big over in Europe?
Yes, I mean, or even eating organic. You can go into a grocery store and you don't even have to try, and you
Okay.
buy everything organic.
And what about, but organic is totally separate from gluten-free.
Right.
So then if you, because there are a lot of gluten-free products here that are from Europe. So
Yes.
it always makes me think that the Europeans are so ahead of us in terms of the quality of food.
Yes, well, I think so, especially after living there for 9 years. It was much easier to get your hands on eating, healthy foods and then just being right in the local grocery store.
Okay.
Whereas here in the States, you go into these huge grocery stores and the organic section or the gluten-free section is microscopic, yet you could send a
Compared.
package to China because they have a post office in the grocery store. I mean, they're huge.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, not really, but my point is,
Right.
is they're just so big, you can do everything but
Right.
buy organic or gluten-free.
So I call you my pseudo gluten-free chick friend. Okay?
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I call you that because every time I see you, we always end up on this particular topic, which compelled me to do that talk at Gurney's in Montauk called Demystifying the Gluten-Free Diet.
Right.
And what I want to know is what do you know about gluten, and what are some of your questions? Because I know that there are tons of questions. And is gluten-free a weight loss fad? I mean, we were talking about that earlier.
Well, I think for us as a family, since we started going pseudo gluten-free,
Right.
because none of us have celiac, so I can have a piece of bread and we're going to be just fine.
Okay, so I want to interject because
Right.
the thing about the gluten-free diet is that celiac disease is the extreme end of the spectrum. Dr. Fasano, who is located in Maryland, has done a tremendous amount of research on celiac disease and gluten intolerance. And now what it is considered is a spectrum disorder. So you have celiac disease on the extreme end of it, where someone does not have the actual enzyme to break down the protein found in gluten-free grains, such as wheat, spelt, kamut, rye, barley, okay? And then you have people who are intolerant to gluten. So you have a sensitivity. So there's a non-celiac gluten intolerance. And it seems that you guys deal with that because you feel better off of it, but you still
Right.
dabble in it.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So for us as a whole, we try to be gluten-free, but
Okay.
again, nothing, we don't go hardcore and across the board.
Right.
So, but we just find that when we are gluten-free, we just wake up, you feel good, you don't wake up with like puffy eyes or achy
Right.
or whatever the symptom may be that,
Well,
translates
it
into your
actually,
body.
believe it or not, it is celiac disease is the single most difficult disease to diagnose because of the array of symptoms. So you can have cognitive delay, and children with celiac, for example, you can have cognitive delay, you can have gastrointestinal distress or upset, you can have everything from speech problems to seizures to chronic illness. I mean, it's really across the board. And it's really only in the past 10 years that it's become more talked about and more common, as you can see with this incredible array of gluten-free products that we have here. I have some products here I pulled out of the boxes for you to taste because the biggest deal are the snacks.
Right.
Okay, like cookies and cakes and crackers, and here are some bagel chips that I found when I took
Yum.
Hunty food shopping the other day. And pretzels, and these are new cheese bites.
Delicious.
Right?
And they taste exactly like regular.
You don't know the difference.
No, you never would.
You never
And
would.
that was my point I was making earlier is that you can have gluten-free products and serve them to your guests, and they wouldn't even know.
Right. And there
Unless
are health
you tell
benefits.
them. Right. Well, that's the whole point, right? We want to feel healthy, which is why we're doing all of this.
Right. But the thing that we have to remember is that gluten-free diets are they're not a fad. They're a medically necessary diet. And I want to tell you a little story about my son Hunter, who's 3, and he's going to be 4 soon. And last March of 2011, he got a terrible stomach virus, and he started losing his hair. Okay? Oh. And I brought him to the doctor, and he was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called alopecia areata. It's when you lose all of your hair. And it was absolutely devastating because here was a 3-year-old whose hair was just falling out in clumps. He looked like he had cancer. My husband and I shaved his head. And I called in my big guns, which were my colleagues, pediatrician Dr. Stephen Cowan, a very dear colleague of mine, registered dietitian, integrative in her way of practicing, Mary Beth Augustine. And I put him through a battery of tests, celiac tests actually, because although there is scientifically no connection between alopecia and celiac disease, autoimmune diseases, which they both are, cluster together. So he tested negative for celiac, even though there is celiac in my family, and I consider myself intolerant. But after he had his endoscopy on May 17th of last year, I took him off of gluten, and his hair grew back, and his symptoms started to improve. This is a child who had seizures. Right. This is a child who is sick all the time. This is a child who was constantly stumbling over himself. He had developmental delays. And now he's just a normal, healthy kid, and he eats a gluten-free diet. So it is medically necessary for many, and for those who it's not medically necessary for, it's great to dabble in.
Right. Well, I just know we just feel better. So, I mean, you could have symptoms, but they're so slight that you wouldn't attribute them
100%.
to gluten. Plus, you don't know, what kind of illnesses gluten might give you. So you would never think, oh, why do I always wake up and my eyes are so puffy? And it could be what you ate the night before.
Right.
Or you're just so achy. Or there's just so many different symptoms, and you wouldn't necessarily know because most people don't know.
So the big question I have for you, just as a layperson, why do you think we've become so allergic or sensitive to gluten?
Well, I think because they put a lot more gluten in processed foods now than they did 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Or we've been eating so much for so long.
Right, and the portions.
Exactly.
I'm sure now instead of having just a small piece of bread,
right.
which again, going back to the whole European thing, the food portions are much smaller, and that's all you need.
That is
Here
all
you go out to eat, and
we start with a bread basket.
It's always a bread basket.
Right.
You never eat blah, blah, exactly. That's what I say when I see it, so I don't eat it. And then you have your appetizers, and then the entree, which can be any bigger.
Right.
The plate is this big.
And
then
gluten,
dessert.
It's used to thicken sauces, flours, or thicken sauces, soups, all of that. It's in marinades. It's where we don't know. Well, I want to jump into cooking with you because I have 2 of my favorite, gluten-free recipes that are kid-friendly because I thought about the kids.
Right.
And we're going to start with the quinoa. So all we're going to do is steam some quinoa.
Right.
And the recipes are on my website at stephaniesacks.com, and you can also get a lot of the information that we're talking about today. And so we're going to make this multicolored quinoa. Quinoa is a gluten-free grain, and it's actually not a grain. It's considered a grass, believe it or not. It's very high in protein, very healthy. A lot of people are turned off by its flavor. It's very earthy.
Right.
So I like to spice it up with some salt, Parmesan cheese, and a little olive oil.
Oh, who doesn't like cheese?
So we're going to do that. I know, right? And then instead of spending a lot of money on all of these gluten-free breadcrumbs,
right,
which, buying gluten-free can break the bank.
Right.
Thanks to Provisions, we have an array of some great products here, Provisions in Sag Harbor.
Yes, love that place.
So a lot of these products they give us the food for each show. And what I do is I use cornmeal. So I make breadcrumbs out of cornmeal, and I flavor them with fresh herbs and some salt and some garlic salt, and you just pan fry it, and it's delicious.
Could you make a whole batch and just put it in a bag and store it so you don't have to do it from scratch every time?
Yeah,
Not
and you
that
put it in the freezer. Put it in the freezer because grains you want to put in the freezer once they're open. Right. So we're going to start here with the quinoa. So I'm just going to pour the quinoa in. Everyone asks me, do you rinse your grains?
Yeah, do you?
Do you
I
rinse
rinse my
yours?
rice.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I do,
Right.
but
It's
because,
habit now.
Well, because I'm working with so many people in their homes and they have time constraints,
Yeah.
I'd rather you eat the grain than worry about rinsing it, because sometimes rinsing will prevent people from actually even eating the grain.
But I thought it was something you had to do to prep it before you make it.
You can rinse it to clean it and to make it a little more digestible.
Right.
Okay, but a lot of people can tolerate the grains just
But
fine.
how long does it take to rinse, really?
Not long.
Right? 1 second here and there, now you can digest it better. And that's
Right,
the whole
not
point.
long, not long. But believe it or not,
Yeah, every minute
It's
counts sometimes.
it's an obstacle for a lot of people. So that's 1.5 cups of water, okay, to 1 cup of grain, and then we're going to turn the heat on. I usually keep things on a medium. Let's see here. We can get this to go down. There we go. Bring it to a boil, and then we'll let that go, and let's do the chicken. I'm going to get you rocking and rolling. First thing we're going to do, I want to talk about cleaning chicken, because I know you are
important.
You're
I
a
use
germaphobe.
whole stack of paper towels. Right. I'm always washing my hand. By the time I'm done, I've just used like 3 Bounty rolls.
Okay, so here's chicken.
Not really, but.
All right, and here's the chicken. And I'm going to show you how to rinse this. We're going to take a lemon, like so, and I put lemon juice. It's a natural cleanser.
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say,
lemon
kills
juice.
everything, right?
Okay, and just some salt. And then we wash this off. So let's hop on over to the sink, okay? And we'll do this here. So Suze, what I do here is then I just rinse it. Very simple, right? And I put it on paper towel like so.
And you're rinsing it with cold water?
Cold water. And then I wash my hands very well, of course, because I don't like chicken on any part of me. And a nice amount of soap. And it's all about how long you rinse your hands, too.
Right. Aren't you supposed to sing Happy Birthday twice? Someone told me that once.
I've never done that
yeah.
before.
I'm like, this is taking too long. It's clean.
I like that. I like that. Okay. Okay. So, Suze, now what I do is I just bring it on over here to the cutting board. Okay. And we'll just set it here for a second while we make our breadcrumbs. Would you like to do this?
I'm so happy to do it.
So, I have basil and oregano.
So is it a pinch?
Dried. Put the whole thing in.
The whole.
You want to make them really flavorful.
This.
Okay.
It's
Garlic
good
salt.
already. Garlic
So
salt.
this is garlic salt here. I love this brand.
I was going to say, I've never seen that.
So you don't need to put salt in. And now,
Brilliant.
I like people to get into the food.
Oh,
Do you smell that? It's amazing, right?
I'm going to eat it just like this. Who needs the chicken?
So, right, and this is great too for fish, like for fish tacos, if you want to do some breading.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So, good job. So we'll move our lemon over here.
Yeah.
And we'll take our chicken that's now dried, and I'm putting it directly on the cutting board here. We'll throw our paper towel away. And I am not, I like my chicken in thin slices.
Right.
Take a look at this here. So you can see it's boiling, right?
Oh, it smells good already.
So now,
Yeah.
I'm going to turn the heat down to roughly 3, so a low simmer.
Yeah.
And it's just going to cook in probably about...
Yeah. That's my kind of cooking. Put the lid on and walk away.
Right. And then we flavor it at the end. So I'm just going to trim the fat off here. And then I like my chicken thin. I don't like very thick.
I know. And it cooks better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Quicker.
So I kind of
evenly.
shave it down like that so I have thinner. See how I have thinner slices?
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll actually toss this back into our bowl and coat it with a little olive oil, okay? And then dip it in here and pan fry it in a little grapeseed oil. Perfect. And I use grapeseed oil because it actually has a high heat. My hands are all chickeny, so I have to wash this bottle afterwards now.
Right, of course.
So here we're going to open this up. Why don't you put the stove on?
Okay.
And I'm going to grab our bowl.
High, medium.
You're going to do it on a medium.
Okay.
Okay, never put oil on high because then what's going to happen is it's going to splatter. So we can put our chicken in a bowl, just like this. Take a little olive oil. Hunter loves this. He likes to pour the olive oil into here.
Oh, so cute.
And then since you're a bit of a germaphobe and my hands are already chickeny, I will do this. So the point is, I actually use this mixture if I'm making turkey meatballs
Oh, yum.
or meatloaf.
Perfect.
It's amazing, okay? And now, all you're doing is coating.
Right. You're just breading it.
That's it. We're just breading it. And look at that, no egg. So typically chicken cutlets are done.
I was going to say you dip
Dip
it
in
in
an
an
egg.
egg, but this is olive oil.
This is olive oil, just olive oil. And then we're just going to put it in our pan and we're going to let it cook.
Can you do that with everything? Just use substitute the grapeseed oil?
Right.
Or no, you're not using grapeseed oil for that. You're using just regular
I'm
olive
using
oil.
olive oil here to
Right.
coat it. And then I'm using grapeseed oil because there's a bit of a higher cooking temperature
Right.
than olive oil.
Okay.
So you don't want to get your oils too hot because then they break down.
Okay.
You see? So here we've
But
got...
you can use this method of oil instead of egg. Pretty much
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
anything you're trying to bread.
Yep, absolutely. And it's much quicker,
Right.
right? It's much quicker, and everything that I do is about trying to make it easier.
Right.
So, but back to the gluten-free diet, this is just a great solution. I mean, there are some great, Bell & Evans makes the gluten-free chicken
Right.
tenders, which are great, and I give the kids. This is also fun to make.
But sometimes you want to break it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
And you want to cook it from scratch and
Right.
because everything starts to get a little bit boring after a while. So you have to have
gotta
multiple.
spice it
You gotta
up.
literally.
Literally. That's that accent of yours that comes out.
The faux accent.
The faux accent.
The faux.
So we're going to see how our quinoa is looking over here. So you can see how this grain, it's a very delicate grain and it cooks very, very rapidly.
Yeah.
So, and I love the mix of the three of them. So
brilliant.
the thing about gluten-free with you, so how, like, where do you guys fall, you think, in the spectrum? I mean, do you keep a gluten-free home, or is it more when you go out that you have the gluten-containing foods? How do you do it?
Our home's not 100% gluten-free because I have small kids and also myself. Like sometimes I'll just want something that has gluten in it.
Like, what do you eat
Just
if you have
because.
gluten in it?
For example, today I had a slice of cinnamon raisin bread.
Okay.
That was
Perfect.
glutinous.
Right.
But I enjoyed it.
Uh-huh.
However, that being said, for the most part, I don't. I mean, you eat what you have at home. So you do a food shop, you
Right.
come home, and whatever you see is what you eat. So you're not going to eat glutinous foods or junky foods if you don't have it. And also, I find that with myself, if I start eating a lot of carrots and hummus, I crave carrots and hummus. And with my kids, if they start eating healthier things, then they
true.
crave it, and they don't crave the really ultra sugary, refined sugar things.
You know, the thing that's
Just
so interesting.
you get used to it, and then you look at food differently too.
You do, and it's talking to kids about it. It's shifting behaviors. The thing that's so interesting to me, though, is that I just Dr. Fasano put out some research on gluten intolerance, and that 18 million people have some form of intolerance to gluten, and that's 6% of our population. So you start to ask yourself, what's going on with our food supply?
Right.
Even so, what are we putting in our bodies that are making us sick? And I was once was recently interviewed for an article on a gluten-free diet, and the reporter wanted to know if the flours that they use for the gluten-free diet could be more nutritious. By the time a grain gets to a flour, what we really need to understand is that
Right.
it's not loaded with nutrition. So it's not that a gluten-free diet is more nutritious, okay?
Right.
What it's doing is it's helping people get healthier because it's eliminating a toxin
Right.
in our food system, okay? Not everybody reacts poorly to it, and the thing that we have to remember, too, is that if you don't have an intolerance, you don't have to be off it. Just moderate it.
Right. Well, I was also told one time by this friend of mine who's a nutritional therapist that, when you start to get into your 60s, all of a
Right.
sudden your body starts breaking down, all the things that you've been doing that were, bad choices,
Right.
either not exercising enough or foods, they start to catch up to you.
Absolutely.
And she said, and you'll find that in your late 50s to early 60s, all of a sudden everybody's developing all sorts of ailments and cancers.
It's
But
true.
if you make it to your mid 70s and you don't have anything, chances are you'll probably make it to your 80s. So for
That's
me,
a really interesting way to look at it.
And so for me, I'm thinking, once also as a mother, once you have children, you're running around all day just trying to keep up with them, but you want to be healthy, you want to live longer, you want your children to pick up these good habits. So for me, it started a bit later in life.
Right.
Also, I didn't know about foods and how they could affect you so much.
Well, I started doing this when I was 15, so roughly 30 years ago.
Right.
And I was considered the food freak, the food Nazi, the health food nut, all of these horrible names people were calling me. And it's so funny when I look back, I'm so grateful for the path that I found myself on because I was sick at a young age, because it's really helped me not only help myself, but I can be out here helping others.
Right.
And it's all about moderation. And it's all about finding the right practitioner to partner with on your care.
Right.
That's what's really important.
It's beautiful.
So technically right now we can shut this off. You can see a little bit of the water in here. You can shut it off, okay? And then you put the top on, and what happens is the water is still in there,
right,
but it steeps. It's called steeping. And so you don't need the burner on. You don't need the additional heat. It's now cooking itself.
Perfect.
Perfect. And then
Again,
we have this.
my kind of cooking.
That's going, right? You want to do
Yes.
it fast, you want to do it quick.
Fast, easy, quick. You're tidying up as you're cooking.
Right.
Everything's neat.
Everything is
controlled.
neat. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do.
Perfect. This looks beautiful, by the way.
Does it?
Yeah, because
And
I
then you
like
could
the
turn this into-
lemony looking, the yellow, golden.
And you can also turn this into a chicken parmesan. Right? Mm-hmm. Put some Parmesan cheese, some sauce.
Again, more cheese.
Serve it with a little gluten-free spaghetti.
They'll never know.
They'll never know. They will never know.
No, they won't.
Hunter comes up to me and he's like, "Mommy, is this gluten-free? Is this gluten-free? Can I eat? Will it hurt my tummy?" Because he doesn't relate that the gluten actually is what, he doesn't really remember the hair loss.
Right.
But, the kids, so many parents, there's gluten-free candy out there.
Right.
There's
Well,
gluten-free
why not?
everything.
I just, if it's better for you,
Right.
why not?
Absolutely. But I think also
they're
one of
making
the
it easier.
things
Yeah.
is that it's expensive. And hopefully in the years to come, the prices of some of these great products will start to go down a bit because it's expensive to be on a gluten-free diet. But if you subscribe to all of these types of products, really, ideally, I would love to see everybody eating fresh vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, high-value protein like fish or organic chicken. But the reality is that we do eat packaged food. I eat some packaged food. My kids eat packaged food.
Yeah.
So when you're on a gluten-free diet, your kids are going to go to a birthday party, right? You
Yeah.
want to give them.
Well, we had a gluten-free birthday cake for my daughter's birthday party. Right. Just because I found a bakery and she's, "Do you want it gluten-free?" And I said, "Well, sure, why not?" I didn't go hunting for a gluten-free cake.
Right.
They loved it. They don't know. They don't know.
I know. I have a funny story about a gluten-free cake. There's this bake shop in Brooklyn where I used to live, and my husband and I used to get it. It was this awesome chocolate cake with a buttercream frosting and coconut on top. Okay, it was to die for. So I would eat it for my birthday, and every time I would eat it, I was sick for 2 days afterwards. Because when I eat gluten, I get this really horrible hangover feeling. So I don't eat gluten and I don't drink.
All right, our chicken's talking to us.
You think it's talking to us?
It's talking to us.
I don't know yet. I'm not feeling the talk yet.
No?
No.
All right,
You're
it's
feeling
talking
the
to
talk?
me.
It's talking
Or it's splattering on me.
because you're like,
one or the other.
eat me. Let's see. So it's looking okay.
How do you know when it's time to turn it over? I mean, really,
well,
without it being completely burned on the other side.
Okay, so you see how it gets a little white here around the edges?
Yes.
So what I always do is when I see it getting white around the edges, I'll check it. You see how nice that looks?
Yeah.
And then I flip it over, just like so.
So everything's always about the edges. Because when I make
Everything is about
pancakes,
the
it starts
edges.
to bubble around the edges.
And it starts to bubble in the center,
So
too.
it's all about the edges.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll let this cook a little bit more. Okay, Suze, so we cleaned up a bit.
Yep.
Our chicken is almost done.
Yep.
I'm going to pour a little olive oil on here. I do it right in the pot. I mean, if you
why
guess,
not?
If you have guests over and you want to look fancy, put it in a bowl.
Yeah.
If you're going to plate in the kitchen, just leave it here,
Yeah.
Put a little salt in. And then I take some Parmesan with my
There you go.
microplane, which is awesome for cheese and it's great for ginger.
Oh, wow, that works well.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh my gosh.
Look at that. And
That's
so
brilliant.
mix it around. And it gets kind of caked in there. It's really yummy. And again, all these recipes are on my site at stephaniesacks.com. And I had to put a little green in there.
You always need your
So,
3, right?
So we'll put our quinoa on the plate.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
And yeah, it is absolutely delicious. And then we'll take our chicken off. So I'll take a nice little piece of chicken here, and I'll cut this up for the two of us. Grab this. And you can see how it's done inside, okay? I'll cut pieces for us so we can taste. So I just have to say thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome so much.
On this show
you're
with
so
me.
sweet. This has been fantastic.
And I want to thank all my guests for tuning in. And we've got a great next episode with a actress, Molly Price. And it's called Fertility and Food. Molly's awesome. She was a client of mine many years ago. I want to thank you to my sponsors, and let's eat.
Yum.
How about it?
Yum.
Right?
Looks beautiful.
So,
Thank you.
you can use this fork there.